This is Phantology.
You may have heard of us.
All right, what's up, Wakeman? This is Steven, your host, with another Phantology episode. And I have Josh with me this time. Just the two of us, right, Josh?
Just the two of us, yeah. We Ryan is out sick for the day. He used one of his sick days, I guess, in Phantology. And yeah.
Did we get those sick days?
Yeah, you didn't get the memo.
PTO without the with pretty limited P.
Well, as of now, our YouTube channel has gotten monetized, and we've made about 60 cents. So
yeah, very exciting news for Phantology. If you're listening, we are running a 1,000 sub competition. Well, not a competition, giveaway, we'll say. And the goal was, once we got to 1,000 subscribers, we were going to draw from people who have commented on recent videos. Every comment on a video gets you an entry. And we're going to run this through the end of the month, even though we've already reached our goal. We're recording now like mid-October. This episode will probably come out in a few days. But at the end of the month, so in our like November episode, we will draw. So there's still time to enter. If you have not entered, or if you want to get more entries in, feel free to comment. Check out this video on YouTube. If you're listening, check us out on YouTube, subscribe, comment, and the winner gets Audible credit.
Yes. Well, they get a book gifted to them on Audible, because you can't actually gift Audible credits. But yes, you will tell us what book you want. We will get the book and gift it to you. So
right. So that's I guess that's like a really long-winded flex. Phantology has 1,000 subscribers.
I don't know if it's a flex to get 1,000 subscribers after 2 years of pretty continuously producing content, but it is a milestone that we have achieved.
It is a milestone. We have achieved it. We're on to the next milestone.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk Arm of the Sphinx, book 2 of the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. The 4th book comes out in about 3 weeks now, and we're going to be current for that one. We have some exciting plans for the 4th book coming out soon. So this is kind of a middle book, right? I mean, obviously it's 4 books, but this is the 2nd, and we haven't read the 3rd yet, so we're not sure what that feel will be. But to get started, like, how did this book feel to you after, we just lavished praise on Senlin Ascends. So how did Arm of the Sphinx then hold up as a sequel?
So I liked it. I think that I was so blown away by the first one because it was so not what I was expecting, that charm kind of wore off on the second one. I knew what to expect more. I knew the characters more. I knew the tone. And so that all the pleasant surprises I got reading the first one, all those good things still stayed good, but I wasn't as like blown away with them in the second one. Does that make sense?
Good things stayed good. You liked the same aspects that you liked in the first book. Sounds like maybe you were hoping for like a little bit of a reinvention or addition to the...
I don't know if I wanted it to change. It's just that the pleasant surprise that I got going into the first book, with it being completely different than I expected, and the charm and the wittiness of it, I was already expecting that going into the second one. So it didn't have the benefit of that to fall back on.
I see.
In terms of,
okay. So it delivered what you were expecting.
It's like the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Like the first one was just so well done, like you delivered this new type of humor to the Marvel movies, and got kind of wackiness. And then the second one was still good, but it didn't have that surprise factor. Like going in to watch it, it wasn't as like,
I don't know about that comparison. I didn't like the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie like at all.
Oh really? Okay.
I liked Spider-Man. I liked Arm of the Sphinx.
Maybe Marvel Spider-Man sticking in the MCU universe, but
Far From Home was really good. Like that's one of my favorite MCU movies ever.
Yeah, but okay, all right. Fair enough.
I see what you're trying to do for sure. Like the analogy maybe doesn't quite stick with me, but yeah, I get the comparison.
All I'm saying is that the novelty has worn off in the second one, and so that a little bit hindered my enjoyment of it. So
okay. He does some different things with the second one. Is not all of Senlin's perspective. we get some points of view from the different crew. And if there's like some random ones from kind of like one-off point of view characters that are interesting. So I enjoyed Arm of the Sphinx. I'm probably with you. Like Senlin Ascends was so like groundbreaking, not necessarily groundbreaking, but just like so unique and cool with what it was doing, so different than a lot of the stuff we had read. So we're like, oh my gosh, this book's amazing. Series continues to be really good, but maybe that like the novelty. Maybe the novelty is probably a good word for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but overall, yeah, I do enjoy that it branched out into different perspectives and it got us to know our main crew a little bit better. I think that's one thing I took for granted from the first one is how well it assembled this crew, kind of organically, like maybe like just kind of every ringdom he went to, he met a new person and they reappeared later. And I just didn't know if I didn't realize at the time it was him assembling a crew, which I think that this was one of my more favorite. That's a terrible way to say it. I think that this was, I appreciate that looking back on the first one even more is the fact that he assembled his crew so well. Yeah.
And then in book 2, we really have more time to sit with the crew, learn who these people are in a more intimate way. We get their points of view. We get more things happening to them. So maybe we say book 2 is like the big character growth book.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where it certainly felt like a setup and we were really like settling into the world more.
Yeah, that's my main criticism going into this is excuse me. I think that this is going to be hard to justify 4 books. And we'll see if I still think that after the 3rd book. But I think that there's a lot of things from this book that maybe could have been cut / I haven't even started the 3rd book, so I have no idea like really what I'm talking about, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard for me to believe that the 2nd and 3rd book couldn't have been combined at this point.
There are definitely some moments in this book where it really seems like Josiah Bancroft's kind of indulging himself a little bit. Like, especially I'm thinking of when Senlin is first in the library and he's just walking around and like in his thoughts, like he is so in his thoughts for just like pages and pages.
There's a lot of pontification going on.
Yeah. And it's really well written. Like the writing, it continues to be really good. Yeah. You can tell that he has some background as a poet. The writing is just beautiful. There's lots of interesting ideas. Nothing's happening really. Like he's going through withdrawals. Yeah.
And I feel like we already know Senlin well enough that maybe something like that could have been applied to a different character. I mean, it wouldn't have been able to be as poetic, but maybe even if we would have gotten, and I guess this might be spoilers now, so I guess spoilers warning, but maybe if we would have gotten a perspective from the Sphinx with some thought process like that, some pontification, as it were. Yeah. Because we've already gotten a lot of pontification. I'm just using that word so much, but we've already gotten that from Senlin. Maybe it would have been cool if we had gotten that from a more of a villain / gray character / we don't really know what to make of the Sphinx. So something like that could have gone a long way to humanize them / help us get to know them and build a better character.
We do get one point of view from the Sphinx right at the very end, right? Like the very, very end of the book. But yeah, there's not any like real deep revelation of what she is trying to do necessarily. I kind of like the lack of insight there because it creates this mystery, right? I mean, if we had it laid out for us, then it's not as exciting.
That's true. I don't think it needs to go spoil the whole plot. There's a ton of books where you get a viewpoint from the villain and it doesn't reveal that much, but it does. Yeah. I'm thinking like, no spoilers here, but the villain from Brent Weeks's Lightbringer. Okay. I don't even want to say his name because I don't want there to be any spoilers, but the villain from there, we get viewpoints from his perspective and really goes towards building up this character. Yeah. Yep.
I know what you're talking about. A villain. I guess there's lots of villains in Lightbringer. But
readers will know which villain I am talking about. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Yeah. I honestly, the book is not that long. I was fine with a few pages of pontification. I thought the ideas were interesting for sure. So, and very well written. So just maybe a little slow at times. But I mean, that's okay. Like the pacing overall was pretty quick. We were always kind of bouncing around from thing to thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as many settings, quite as many settings in this book. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because they weren't as novel to me again. But I really enjoyed the piracy chapters at the beginning. I thought that was a cool way to kind of reset going, it kind of made me excited to get back to the tower and learn more about the tower when they were off kind of just robbing people. I enjoyed it, but I was like, all right, let's, this is cool world building and I'm ready to go keep learning about the tower.
So you were okay with the pirate? You liked the piracy, or you wanted more tower?
I did. I thought
it was both.
Both. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool way to begin the second book because it made me, like if we would have just stayed in the tower, say from the first to the second book, I think I would have been kind of itching to, see what life was like outside of the tower. And this also provided an insight as to why they couldn't just steal the airship and it felt like at times in the first book, an airship was just going to solve all of their problems. Like that's kind of the way that Senlin viewed it. He was like, "Oh, I can just fly right up and grab Maria and throw her on the airship with me, and then we can sail back to our home, and I can go be the headmaster and da 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 da." You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and this kind of it was like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah, they had the airship, but it's just like the crappiest airship out there. And things go
stone
honestly,
cloud.
Things
that was so great.
The stone cloud things go very poorly on the stone cloud, and this kind of ties into the end when Senlin is essentially demoted as captain. He does like a pretty bad job at being captain, and it's kind of interesting because a lot of times with protagonists, especially like the chosen one protagonist, and not saying that Senlin is necessarily the chosen one, but you have the protagonist that you sit with and you see them grow. You kind of expect them like, okay, their ultimate like character arc is they're going to become this leader, right? And that's they're going to be, people are going to follow them and they're going to inspire, etc. Senlin tries to do that, but isn't super successful.
I guess. I mean, all things considered, he was pretty successful in terms of the fact that he was like, addicted to drugs without realizing it.
Yeah.
I think if you had been getting dosed with, essentially like cocaine, or is that what we would liken this drug to? Probably.
I guess I see them more as
ecstasy,
like maybe like hallucinogenic type thing.
Yeah, but it's pretty powerful. I mean, it's anyway, some powerful hallucinogenic drug.
Okay.
Being like microdosed with it every day, driving you to, have constant I don't know. I think all things considered, he kept his crew alive when he was being
he kept them alive, but he didn't really inspire them very well. Like he was just kind of the figurehead. Edith was really running things the entire time.
That's true.
But and they just had this trust in him. They had this trust in him because he kind of saved the day at the end of the first one.
But he did get them out of that tickle with the big ship
with the Ara rats.
Yeah. He got them out of that through some quick thinking, some captainly duties. And
there's a good line that, who says this? I think the Sphinx says this towards the end, talking with Edith. I might be wrong, but he talks about how some people, or she, I guess the Sphinx, I'm probably butchering this. Anyway, it's something about how, there are people who are have a lot of ingenuity. They're very smart, intelligent, but then they come to be the leader and they're not very good at being the leader. And so I think that really ties into what you were saying and what I'm trying to say, and that he was smart and he played a role on the Stone Cloud, but was he the best choice for a leader? Like, no, clearly Edith was better and will be better on the, what is the name of their new ship? It's like the State of Art or Art, something like that. Some kind of grandiose name. Yeah, Edith's going to be way better.
Yeah, and she did deserve to be captain like the entire time, right? Like, there's really no doubt about that. I think she was more, I forget really why, I thought it was kind of silly at the time, but there's like a reason given that he was the captain, and I was like, okay, I buy it. But looking back, it should have been her the entire time.
Well, doesn't he just kind of assume command at the end of the first book and all of that action, and then they escape and he just kind of stays on as captain, like de facto almost?
Yeah, I thought I remember there being some line that Edith said about why she didn't want the leadership position or something like that. But looking back, it was pretty dumb, and I'm glad that that's kind of being rectified going forward.
The Sphinx is able to at least see who the better leader is. Not that this makes Senlin any less of a character. I think it's interesting that our main character, our protagonist, is like, that's not his arc being the leader. He has grown in a lot of other ways, but like he still doesn't necessarily have the leadership chops, and that's okay. Yeah. Different than usual.
Yeah. And a cool arc. I totally agree.
And it kind of ties back to something that we talked about in the first review of Senlin Ascends, where Josiah Bancroft had said he doesn't want a hero. I think I read this in the little afterword after the first book, some interview that he did. He didn't want a hero that just had like hero problems. He wanted a hero that had like real person problems. And in this case, like, he's not going to be a leader just because the plot wills it to be so. Like, his character is literally like, he's not good at leadership, and that's okay. That's understandable because he's a real person. So the characters are like low-key really good.
Yeah. I think the characters are one of the standout. I don't know. The setting, characters, and prose are all stand out in this series. That's what makes it so good. I think it's kind of got that trio going on for it.
Yeah. The plot is like good enough to move things along. But it really is the characters, settings, and prose. Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think I trust Bancroft enough to know that he knows what's going to happen in the plot and that it's going to be satisfying. But that's not why I'm in love with these books. You know?
Like, we're not just sitting here. The first thing out of our mouths when we started talking about the books was not, oh my gosh, what about the painting? Or, who is the bricklayer? Like, these are kind of the plot mysteries. And in some books that we review, that's the very first thing we're like, oh my gosh,
theorizing
that plot thing. Yeah, we theorize. We're like, oh, that twist was crazy. That's not what we did. We started talking about characters and setting.
Yeah, because I mean, what really happened in this book? They like made it to the Sphinx, and the Sphinx conscripted Senlin to go be a spy for him, and I mean, that's pretty much it.
Well, you skipped over the whole
big picture.
You skipped over the whole Golden Zoo Silk Garden thing with Marat and the Hods. Like, that's gonna be important.
We were introduced to the larger conflict in a little bit. Yes. Like, yes. There is a larger conflict between Marat and the Sphinx, and that is going to be something driving the plot forward. But like that, I don't know. Again, that didn't feel like the point of the book, really.
I mean, I wouldn't say the plot's necessarily Marat versus Sphinx. It's like Sphinx versus the tower and the debauchery and all of that, like, falling apart. I liked the part at the end where he tells Senlin about the bricklayer and that the tower is a bridge, but the bricklayer wasn't able to do it because technology wasn't ready. So Sphinx is trying to kind of make things happen, but now the tower's falling apart, so he needs help. Like, that was all kind of cool. And I guess Marat represents like the revolutionary faction that now Senlin needs to kind of quell to make sure the tower doesn't fall apart before the Sphinx can do what the Sphinx wants to do. That's my understanding of where we're going from here. I don't know if we trust the Sphinx entirely.
The Sphinx definitely has his or her own purpose throughout this.
Yeah.
And obviously is not being totally forthright with Senlin. Speaking of, the fact that she only knew where Mario was like 10 months ago, I think is like a violation of that contract that they made. I know that they said that she would tell him everything she knew about her, but the implication was that she had real valuable information, right, and could take him right to her. And then like nothing beyond what he already knew pretty much seems sus.
That's kind of the point of the contract, right? You're fulfilling the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. That's what Edith did.
Right. But the Sphinx was not, happy with it. Like the Sphinx did not see that as honorable. She saw that as like conniving. but not as like what the contract was there for.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's on Senlin for not saying like, I require information within the past month or something.
Yeah. And we got that perspective. Speaking of, I thought,
you know what? Actually, she lied, right? She said within the past 10 months, but then she had the recording from the butterfly of Maria having a child. So the Sphinx lied to him.
Huh. Yeah, I guess I didn't put that together. Yeah.
I mean, I just connected that as well. I just barely finished the book like 30 minutes ago, in all honesty. So I'm just kind of sitting with some things still. Yeah. So the Sphinx broke the contract, and Senlin is probably going to find this out at some point. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Will Senlin know what the Sphinx knew? Hard to say.
So I don't know if this was more obvious, but do we think that this is Senlin's baby?
Maybe, but he hadn't. No, because he hadn't seen her for almost a year, is what he says.
Has it been 2 years already?
No, 1 year. He says there's a bit where he says he hasn't seen Maria. It's almost been a year since he last saw her.
Yeah. So if they got pregnant like right before she went into the tower, then it would be.
So the recording. The recording might be old.
Yeah, might be a few.
Yeah. That's right. We don't know how old the recording is. Yeah.
Where it would have had to have been within 10 months.
Right. So how do we piece this timeline together? So if it was Senlin's child, then Maria would have needed to be pregnant 1 year ago, which means like Senlin wouldn't have known she was pregnant, or obviously would have been a big thing.
She might not have known she was pregnant.
Yeah, right. But then that would have been several months in. So if it was Senlin's child, the Sphinx for sure lied, is what we're concluding, right?
Well, the Sphinx lied either way, because Senlin, if it was only 10 months ago, then she would have been 8 months pregnant.
Yeah, you're right. The Sphinx lied either way. But we don't know enough about how old that recording is to know whose child it would have been.
No. But I think it's...
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to be Senlin's kid, right? Like that would add a whole nother level of...
Yeah, that definitely would. Yes. Yeah, it seems weird that she would get with like the Pell guy and have a kid and be like totally okay with things like it was in that recording. It's got to be Senlin's child.
Yeah. I don't know. That would be interesting either way, though, because it does, mention how many times she might have changed. How many different people she could have been. Like that line where it's like, I've been a bookkeeper and a pirate and such and such. Like all, and who knows what she could have been.
And he is now finally realized that he's like in love with Edith, but at the same time, like Maria's still there, but it's been a year. So he's trying to figure out, like, this is a lot of his internal conflict when he's in the library.
So can we get into this? Because this bugged me. This is my biggest problem with the book.
Okay.
I think, look, a year is not enough time to fall out of love with your wife, I don't think. And
but they hadn't been together that long.
Correct. But he had known her for a long time. She was his pupil.
Yeah.
Obviously that relationship's going to be different, right? Like hopefully he wasn't, romantically interested in her while she was his pupil. But that's still time to build up a love for somebody, right? Like I've known my wife since middle school and I wasn't like in love with her that entire time since middle school, but I think that time knowing her like definitely has increased the love that I have for her now, what I mean, than if I wouldn't have had that. So just kind of, it's not a one-to-one comparison.
So a year, not long enough for Senlin to be going for Edith without like any kind of feelings. Because he doesn't necessarily like show any big feelings of guilt, right?
Well, it happens right at the end.
Well, he does because he writes down in his journal, like, I think Edith is very pretty. It's like, I feel terrible about this, but it's true.
And that was a really cool, the way that it described, like, I believe the line was, aimless wandering like at night or such and such, like it actually isn't aimless. It's actually a craving for something that you just don't want to admit to yourself or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was so true. Like when you get up at night, like, is there any chance that you're not going to go get like a bowl of ice cream or a midnight snack or something? You know what I mean? Like you might deceive yourself and like, oh, I'm just going to go get a drink of water. But yeah, right. You're getting that cereal or whatever you really want.
Or to kind of fit this theme, it's like when you send the "you still up" text.
Yeah.
You know, we know it. We all know what that is.
Exactly. So I thought that captured, I think Bancroft continues to do a wonderful job at capturing like real human emotion and tapping into that of stuff that regular people struggle to put into words.
Yeah.
But still, I think that like there is still, in my opinion, it would be unethical and immoral to go pursue this relationship when it has been only a year. I don't know what the cutoff would be, of not knowing if your spouse is alive, how long that like cutoff is.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's longer than a year, especially if you actively like are pursuing them and like know that they are still have good information that they're still alive.
Right.
So yeah, that's my more Puritan, upbringing and sensibilities speaking. But and look, it is just a kiss, right? Like
yeah, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe starting at the third book, they're like, that was a mistake,
right? Like which I hope kind of happens. But the other thing, the kind of bigger issue I have with it is throughout most of this book, I liked how they were friends. And I feel like in literature or in fantasy books in general, whenever there's like a man and a woman that are like vaguely attracted together, they immediately like start a relationship. You know what I mean? And I like that this was a departure from it. Like they were both kind of attracted to each other and you knew that, but
you were hoping it wouldn't go there.
Yeah. I liked how there was like, maybe even if it was just this thing blocking them, that they weren't going to go there. I thought it showed like self-control, but also it created this more unique relationship between them of like respect and admiration and not just like longing or.
So they were both coming out of very stressful, life-changing situations, right? Like Edith had just recovered from her new arm and she was feeling insecure about it and obviously, physically weak. Senlin comes out of his withdrawals. He's had lots of time to kind of think about life and let us know what he thinks about life. So maybe there's like something to that to kind of explain the situation.
I guess I don't think that this one kiss is like bad or it's not great, but that's not my real issue. My real issue is if their relationship just flips on a dime and now they're like a thing, which I just hope that doesn't happen. That's what I'm trying to say.
So I guess we table this for the third book and we see what happens.
Maybe this kiss is just like overhanging everything, showing that there is that like attraction. And so it just adds more attention to every scene that they're in together, but it doesn't happen, I'm sure there's a ton of people that are going to ship, Edith and Senlin and that are like, oh, screw Maria. We don't even know her. Like just go for Edith. Like she is a better fit for you now. And I can get with that. I can get that point, but in my head, I'm like, well, you still need to figure things out with Maria, like,
and the fact that she's still alive, like if she was for sure dead, then you're like, okay, a year's passed, your spouse has died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or frankly, if he had already accepted like that she wasn't going to be a part of his life anymore and been like, all right, well, I can't keep looking for her. Like,
right. But their mission is to find her.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Like go to Pelifia and find her is like what they're trying to do. And so it does seem weird. Yeah.
If he had been like, and this isn't really his character, but if he had been saying, okay, well, I can't risk my life for my wife. It seems like she's pretty well set up in Pelifia and me trying to get to her would just be putting both of us in danger. So, I'm going to let her live her life in Pelifia and I'm going to go start my life wherever. Then that's one thing. Then that's like a different set of decisions.
Sure.
But that, that's not where his head's at. So.
Okay. So we'll see what happens in the third book.
I feel like I'm going to get roasted for this take, but
I mean, everyone wants to ship characters in books. You always want to see people get together. So I think, yeah, maybe some people might be unhappy with that, but I do think it is like a little bit of it's like a mature way to look at it. Like, is it really appropriate after a year and you're still looking for her? I can see some issues there. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to start the third book, I guess is where I'm at. So.
Okay, let's go back. We didn't talk a whole lot about the whole Golden Zoo, Silk Garden thing. You kind of skipped over it when you were saying like what happened in the book. I think it's important.
Yeah, okay. So that whole setting was, I felt like it was both rushed and not well enough fleshed out. I guess that's where I'm at. Like if the Golden Zoo was going to be like a main part of the story, I think it happened too fast. And the fact that it wasn't, so I felt like it either needed more time or not to be there, or be there.
But it was probably about the same amount of time as we spent in some of our like the parlor setting, for example, probably even more time, because it was like a fourth of the book, the Golden Zoo.
Yeah, but the parlor felt more of an introduction to the tower. I know that was the basement. I felt like in my reading of the first book, I just kind of grouped the basement and the parlor as like, okay, here's the introduction to the tower. Things aren't as they seem. Now go and start, figuring it out from there. But this was like more towards kind of the middle of the book, and then it kind of slowed down there. And anyway, so what do you think about it? I feel like I've spoken enough about it. So
I see what you mean a little bit. I liked it. I thought it was it's just like this kind of dim, cavernous setting. There's really not much going on. The one thing for me was I didn't have a sense of how big it was, because it was this whole layer of the tower, but they just went to like this very specific place. Like, is it just big enough where they found the place right away? Was the map suitable enough to get them there? Like, it just seemed very convenient that they got exactly there. And I don't remember if the map was really what helped them do that or not. I guess we assume it must have been, which is a decent enough explanation. I thought there were enough like different kind of unique things to occupy people's time. But then, yeah, I just didn't have the sense of like, this is a broader thing. It just seemed like a very small circle that they actually explored of a very large ringdom, I guess. Maybe that, I don't know, is that even a criticism? Just an observation?
Yeah, you're right. Like, I didn't know if it was the size of a zoo or the size of like a forest,
Like I guess I got the sense that the whole place just extended, like that whole layer of the tower was this dim cave with spiders and spider eaters and what else, shipwrecks. Like that was just the whole thing, and they managed to find the Hod encampment.
Yeah, which I thought that part was cool. I did enjoy the Hod encampment, but again, I felt like it was a little bit rushed. Like it didn't. I don't know.
I think we're gonna revisit it. Yeah. I think it's just an introduction to this conflict with Marat.
So if that's the case, then great. But again, this is why I'm going back to like, I feel like if things were this rushed, then it could have been incorporated. Like the second, third book might have been able to go into a single book. I feel like a lot of these things, could have skipped the Golden Zoo and spent more time with the Hods or something.
I mean, I like the idea of we're introducing it here and then we're leaving it because we don't have the resources to deal with it now. Then they make it to the Sphinx, and they have, they'll probably revisit it to some extent.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think what we're coming to is that the plot wasn't necessarily the reason why we love the books. Like we said, it's about the characters and the settings. Maybe the Golden Zoo setting was like not quite as cool as some of the other settings, but at the same time, like, it's still, every setting managed to really conjure up a nice visual for me. And whenever I'm reading something and I can visualize it really well, I always take that as a sign that's really well written, because sometimes I struggle with that and I just like skim through things and I'm like, not really sure exactly what that looked like. But that's not been the case at all in this series. I can visualize everything really well.
Now we know why Wheel of Time is your favorite series, Stephen.
Well, I mean, every single different place and culture has a different unique feel to it. It's awesome.
I know. Yeah. But yeah, so those part of the books were fine. I felt like it dragged a little bit throughout the middle part there.
Even though we had like the different points of view and each character was kind of like doing something that seemed kind of important.
Yeah. I'm not saying that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I did think the parts with Aren and Adam when they were like investigating the shipwreck and the spiders came and attacked him, like that did just kind of seem like filler.
Yeah. And it set up that whole other, subplot for Adam that it seems like it's going to be a large part of the third book. Which again, we'll see how that goes. And it might have been the way I read it. Honestly, I took a break after the first part, after part one, and I read another nonfiction book because I feel like I've been reading a lot of fiction lately. So I read a whole other book and then came back to it. So maybe that's why I felt like it dragged on a little bit. But yeah, that was my impression of it.
Yeah. I liked it. I think it'll be interesting, but maybe what we're saying is that a lot of things in book 2, we are like tentatively saying an opinion, but we're waiting for book 3 and possibly book 4 to know exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Anything else about, Murat, the Hods, like what do we think is going on here?
Yeah, so I think it was cool to have this this whole group of people that seemingly, we don't know the whole story, right? But it's presented to us like they're trying to redact all this knowledge and maybe go back to this place where they have the power because they are, pushing it back to more of a primitive mindset is the takeaway I got, right? Like the Sphinx has the technology. They don't have technology, but they maybe have numbers and they have,
there's a lot of like little themes throughout that are touched on. I remember there's something the Sphinx says again. I don't remember who she says it to, but the line was something like the brilliant man's invention becomes the common man's like plaything, something
toy,
like
plaything.
that.
Yeah. Because they don't know how to use it.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Very true. Like who knows how a cell phone works? I don't know, but I use it all day.
Yeah. Yeah. But even more than that, like if you think about how much power like a, TI-89 calculator has, like you can pretty much like do most anything mathematically possible on it. Yet 99% of its use is like 48 plus 62 equals, that's what most people use it for.
Right.
Yeah.
But Harry Seldon can solve the whole, next 1,000 years of predictions using only a calculator.
30,000 years. 30,000 years.
Okay. Yeah. Only a calculator. That's all it takes to be a, what's it called again? The, oh gosh. We're watching Foundation right now, but can't remember the name of these people. The Foundation people.
Yeah. Dang, that's bothering me too.
Let us know in the comments what that field of science is. Yeah. Anyway, how did we get to the
psychohistorians?
Okay. Psychohistorians, yes. All it takes to be a psychohistorian is a TI-89 calculator. I guess you have to have read the Foundation books to understand that because the TV show, it looks different.
Yeah. Fair. It's much cooler in the TV show.
Yes, it is. Okay, so that happens. I'm with you. I don't know if we know a whole lot about what the Hods are doing. I don't know. It seems maybe a little ambitious to me to think that their small group of Hods is going to accomplish this goal, if that really is their goal of just like striking out knowledge and assuming power, because they don't have that many Hods, do they?
Well, it seemed like they had a lot. Like walking through, I was kind of surprised because it seemed like maybe in the Tower in the first book, it seemed like Hods were more rare. It was like a really big deal when somebody became a Hod, and then now we're just being exposed to more and more Hods.
Well, I think if they could access all of the Hods, like if they could, there's a good Stormlight thing here, but maybe we shouldn't spoil that. You know what I'm talking about?
Can't say that I do.
Really? Think of like the servitile type things going on in Stormlight.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
now I know what you're
Yeah.
saying. Okay, yeah, if there's just okay, I don't, it's easy to spoil. You don't want to spoil.
Right.
Yeah.
But so they don't have very many Hods right now. Like they say, they're turning away Hods. They can't take them all. They're like that one Hod that they killed and buried because he wasn't willing to fall in line with them. So I don't know. It doesn't seem to me like they really have the numbers. But maybe they like see the tower is rotten and they're like, okay, we only have to overthrow, like the 1% and we've got it. Something like that.
Yeah. I thought it was funny because I'm like, man, if you were just getting random books in our world today and just blotting out all the numbers, I'm like, you're either going to get a lot of Bibles, a lot of Harry Potter books, and that's pretty much like 80% of what you're going to be like crossing out if you're just to go out and like steal books from people's homes.
You think 80% of books are either Harry Potter or
not
the Bible?
80%, but like of books that people are carrying around with them, and you just like stop them and steal their books or like go. And I don't know, probably in most people's houses, like if they own books, it's probably going to be the Harry Potter books / like maybe a religious text.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fair. Meanwhile, they're blotting out probably a lot of copies of the Everyman's Guide.
Right.
I wonder if they'll ever, like the Hods will invade the library and start just blotting everything out, the Sphinx's library.
I did think that was a really cool contrast, because the thing with the Sphinx is it's not like he is using this library for the good of the tower. He's more using it for his own, almost like preventing knowledge from escaping his control, right? Like he's not lending his books out like a library would lend them out. He is hoarding them like a dragon.
Which is another line from, it talks about like the merit of a library should not be how many books they have, because they could just be stacked up. It's about like the circulation that happens with the books.
Right. So I thought that was cool. And I think it also shows a deeper point of like how different is Marat versus the Sphinx. If like, the Marat's like destroying books, and I'm not condoning that, but is what the Sphinx is doing really any better, just hoarding all the knowledge for himself?
Yeah. I feel like we need to add a fourth thing to the reasons why we really love these books: setting, characters. What was the third thing? Prose. And the fourth thing I'm going to say are themes. I think there's a lot of really cool themes, and maybe there's like so many of them that they're not all explored super in depth, but there's a lot of really like pretty deep, interesting ideas that are just scattered throughout the books that make it worth reading.
Yeah, maybe philosophy / themes.
Yeah, sure.
Like just one line philosophical, ponderings, and then that makes you think for like kind of distracts you from the next 5 pages, which not a lot happens. You're still thinking about that. Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive that you as an author could, get that many like interesting things in. I feel like authors try to do this, but not everything they try to do is necessarily as interesting. Like Bancroft does a really good job of really kind of getting some real world interesting ideas that maybe I feel like they're only interesting if you haven't thought about them enough. So nicely done.
Abercrombie does this a lot too, where he'll just throw in something pretty profound that is within the character to say. Anyway.
Yeah. You're like, what the heck? A second ago, we were like going through and killing a bunch of people, and now we're doing profound stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So should we talk about the Sphinx a little bit? I mean, we did already. The thing, I feel like the thing we haven't talked about enough are individual characters and the whole Adam plotline. Let's do the Adam plotline. So when he goes up to the top of the tower with the sparking men, if you're not Valletta, and they know him, like this is really creepy and weird, but also
the
really
story
intriguing.
Like he's from the story.
Yeah, what is like?
But
is
Edith
this...
isn't part of the story.
Yeah. Is it just all a simulation around Adam? What's going on? It's the Truman Show, but Adam.
I don't know. What do you think? I'm going to toss this back to you. What do you think about it?
I really don't know what to make of this, especially because it seems like the conflict, the Sphinx should be having some conflict with the people on top of the tower. We know almost nothing about these people other than they have technology and they're really rich and they seem connected to the Sphinx. maybe this is like another offshoot of the bricklayer or something, but I have zero idea why Adam is the subject. Like how? Yeah, I have no idea. I Thanks for tossing it back. I got nothing.
Okay. Adam in general, I kind of feel like it's one step back, two steps forward, one step backward with his character, where he'll grow and learn and then revert back to how he was before a little bit, which is how it felt in the first book too. And even with this book, it felt like he wanted Tom or Senlin's approval, but then like didn't care about it, but then still wanted it, and then it just kind of goes back and forth of how devoted he really is / how much he wants forgiveness for betraying him. And same thing with his sister. Does he just feel protective of her, or does he also feel like he can let her be her own person, and that he needs to find his another duty in life? I feel like these are the same things that he keeps thinking about, and I enjoyed it, but it's not like the main. I didn't love it.
He hasn't really progressed. Like you feel like this book just kind of solidified who he was, but without a lot of progression. Yeah, I agree with that. I think we need time to solidify some of these things, because the crew wasn't necessarily on page that much in the first book, other than there was a lot of Edith, obviously a lot of Senlin, some of the others, but not a whole lot. Like we got a lot more character solidification in this book. So I thought it was fine, but yeah, I'm with you. Especially Adam, he didn't grow very much.
Yeah.
Eren grew some, although it was just kind of almost sad for her. Like she seems to be falling apart a bit.
Yeah. I thought that was cool that she got her like mother, it made her into more of like a mother bear type figure, like I'm going to do anything to protect my cubs, and so that was cool. And I did think it was cool that Adam distracted the anteater or the spider eater from taking down Eren. Like that was pretty cool for his character. It's not something he would have done in the first book. So there is some growth with him. And but again, that same scene was interesting with Eren, like totally doing something that she knew she shouldn't have done, because like you said, she's a little bit, falling apart. She's not as sharp as she was.
Yeah. We saw her humanity a lot, which is, and by the end, she was like pleading with the Sphinx to do something to her to kind of restore the control over life that she's always had, the power that she's always had. Like that's her core of her personality, of who she is. Now she's losing it as she gets older, and she's like, what do I do? And she's willing to. She probably would have made whatever bargain the Sphinx wanted, unfortunately, but it sounds like there really was nothing that Sphinx could have done.
Yeah. I was kind of worried that they were going to and I want to be careful with how I talk about this, but I was worried that it was going to imply that she had some sort of like learning disability that needs to be fixed or something like that the Sphinx was going to be able to somehow fix. And it kind of, when I thought it might be that, I was like, oh, this is kind of problematic. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it didn't go that direction. So I guess I was relieved about that, but I was worried that it was going to be like, okay, here's this, maybe person that's a little bit lower, presented as lower intelligence, that, but no, it was like, okay, she's going through these changes, which again, it was interesting because she never had been educated about, what do they call it, and what do they call menopause in this book? They call it like cessation. Yeah. But like she was never taught basic things about like her body, like that she would be going through menopause, So I think that did add some to her character about how not sheltered, but how kind of in an abused situation she was, that she didn't know that would be something that would happen. And then, so I thought that was cool. And I had maybe pictured her as younger than that, maybe in her like 30s or 40s.
Yeah, it's like she's like 55. Yeah, I don't think I pictured that she's necessarily that old through the first book either. But maybe that's kind of the point, because she seems so capable. Like we had no idea that she was really that old.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the whole. Like I could go on a rant about this, like being disabled. Like if there are characters in a book and they're disabled, be it mentally, physically, whatever, and you're just going to say like this character's arc is to be better, like to be healed of this thing, and like that's their ultimate journey, like that's really bad. Don't do that as an author. So uh, yeah, I'm with you. There's some examples from like books that I really like where they do this, and it really kind of ticked me off.
Fair. Well, yeah, I was relieved that's not the path that they went down. So
yeah. Okay. What else do we have to kind of wrap up here? I feel like what Valletta, I guess we didn't talk about Valletta's. Gosh. Should we do worst of the best now? Because this is my worst of the best.
Worst of the best.
Let's go to the worst of the best segment. So we do this in fun. We don't want to be overly critical of books, but we are going to point out a part of the book that we really like, but then like one thing about it that wasn't necessarily our favorite. So segment starts now. And my thing was, so Valletta, we talked about the characters are one of the high points of the books. And I think that's true, except for her. I was just always confused with her character. I didn't know if this was Lift from Stormlight Archive or if this was actually an 18-year-old girl. Like, she just seems so immature, but at the same time, she's not, because she's gone through like Rodion and the steam pipe and everything. And she's very much like aware of the evils out there in the world, but she doesn't really ever seem like she's actually mature. I just don't know what to make of her character. Like, is she 8 years old? Is she 30 years old with lots of experience? Is she really this 18-year-old girl? I don't know. I struggled with her.
Yeah. It seems like at some point she was meant to be kind of like Rey from the new Star Wars trilogy, where like, okay, she's like this girl that grew up in, you know, a terrible situation that is now using her abilities that she learned from climbing through ships to be a great Jedi. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what I felt like it was going to be. Like, okay, now she's like an acrobat and she's going to use these all, you know, to be the best fighter or just to be kind of Mary Sue. But no, she just kind of takes a step backward in some ways. Or maybe just you learn more about her and her character isn't what I thought it would be.
She's easily tricked by the Sphinx. Not a big fan of the character. I mean, I guess the character makes sense to some degree, but maybe we're hoping for more capability in a character. I feel like characters need to have some level of like, this character can do things. And I guess she's good at being an acrobat, but.
And she also maybe is guileless in some ways. Like she really befriended the Sphinx.
Yeah.
And like,
she also saved him in the Silk Gardens, where she was able to just like infiltrate right in. And at that time she did realize that bad stuff was going on. So maybe I'm not giving her enough credit.
Yeah.
But she also blew it on the lookout duty.
My worst of the best.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, leads right in. So my worst of the best was, again, that whole Ararat. Yeah, that whole interaction with her just completely blowing it, dropping the ball and being distracted by a squirrel, which needed more screen time. That squirrel, I was a fan of that squirrel.
Squirt. I think Squirt. It was the same. Yeah.
So yes. But not only that, but again, that whole scene, it goes back to my worst of the best from the first one, is that I felt like it was set up to be super cinematic with like this airship battle and, you know, like this maneuver of them plummeting towards the ground. But for whatever reason, maybe it was because it was towards the beginning of the book, there just wasn't that much tension in there for me. Like I didn't think that they would all die. You know, of course I didn't think that, but
do you need them all possibly dying to be?
I didn't. No, but I wanted there to be more stakes than there were at that moment.
Well, I mean, I feel like their ship being pulled along the ground by a train and probably going to be, I mean, the ship was, I felt like that was the stake, right? If the stone cloud was going to be destroyed.
Yeah, and get captured by the commissioner and all that. Yeah. I don't know. Again, maybe that scene just fell a little flat for me. Not super critical of it, but I felt like that could have been like a really big highlight of the book, because that was kind of what the whole sequence of the book was culminating to. Was that altercation. And
I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah. I felt like it was cool where he blew apart the cabin and he hooked onto the train and the train pulled him away, and then they were able to finally blow the ballast, I think is the technical term. Yeah. I'm learning terms of airships, or probably regular ships. Actually, I have no idea. I don't know anything about.
I think there's a ballast in the hot air balloon too, but
okay. Yeah, this is something that I'm being educated on in my steampunk fantasy. Anyway, so I thought it was fun, and it was exciting, and it was interesting the way that they use like the nobleman's perspective to try to like spice it up a bit, to not just have it be too fatiguing going through like an endless battle. Like there was a lot of kind of back and forth. So I like that. I think maybe the only thing that I'll give you on that is it did feel like the RRAT kind of came out of nowhere. Like we knew the threat of it was looming, but then, well, is that even fair? I don't know. It did seem kind of like a sudden climax, we'll say. Like all of a sudden it's here and we're fighting for our lives.
All right. You're rejecting my worst of the best. It's okay.
Yeah. Overall, we really, like we said, we really liked this book. I think we liked it for some specific reasons. There were some other reasons that were not bad parts of the book by any mean. There were some other things that were not bad parts of the book by any means, but at the same time, we're like, this could have been a little bit better.
So what if you had to give it a rating, what would you say?
I think I gave the first book 8.5 out of 10.
No, I gave it 8.5. You gave it an 8.
I gave it.
You gave it 8 point. Yeah, you gave it an 8.
Okay, I'm gonna go a half point lower then. I'll go 7.5 out of 10.
Ah, dang it! That's what I was gonna go.
Okay, well we agree.
7.5. Yeah, I think it was a bigger drop for me because I gave the first one 8.5. But I like this book. And it was not disappointing in the least. I'm excited to continue on with the series. So,
and I think parts of it's a little bit of an incomplete grade because it was a lot of setup for the third book and probably into the fourth book. So maybe if we have, the complete story, we might look back at the second book, and I'm assuming it will be like, oh, that's what he was trying to do there. And in some of these things that we were critical of, we could probably justify a bit more.
Yeah.
So we, after reading a second book, if you're still excited to continue reading the series, I feel like the second book has done a really good job. Second books are hard. It's always kind of like that bridge between the awesome start and where you're trying to go. So we're both excited to continue reading into book 3 and book 4. So success.
Awesome.
Okay. And by the way, we didn't mention this, but in the first review, I said that the Red Hand was still alive and the Red Hand is still alive. So give me that.
You are right, Stephen. I will give you that.
Come on.
That you nailed it.
Character dies off screen. You don't know what happened. He's definitely still alive. And in fact, he is still alive. So
all right.
Props to me.
Props to you, Stephen.
Yep. Got it.
Phantology guarantee checked off.
Phantology guarantee, actually happened.
Well, what's your fan? Okay. All right. Well, you just tooted your own horn. So another Phantology guarantee. What's gonna happen?
Well, obviously I cannot make a guarantee about the whole Adam plotline because I think it's really intriguing and awesome, but I don't know what's going to happen there. So the guarantee we have for this episode is going to be maybe around Maria, or help me with something interesting that we could guarantee.
Phantology guarantee.
Okay.
Tower is a spaceship. Some might recognize that from a callback from our early videos about another book series about another tower being a spaceship.
No, which one? Remind me.
It's the spoiler for one of Sanderson's series. That didn't end up happening, but it's a very general spoiler. But I don't want to spoil it. Yeah.
We guaranteed that. That was something we guaranteed.
I think Ben guaranteed that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a poor guarantee.
Not on this one.
Well, I mean,
naval spaceship.
with hindsight, having now read more books in the series that you're referring to, it seems like a very poor guarantee. I don't know. Maybe it could have happened. Sanderson, anything's on the table.
So what I do think, though, is that maybe they were trying to, I don't know how the physics of this works at all. I'm probably just completely wrong on this, but maybe they were trying to build the tower high enough so that they could blast off ships into the like stratosphere without needing as much fuel. Like they were trying to build high enough that the air would be thinner. And
I mean, with the
terrible
myth of the
science
tower,
person.
like the biblical Tower of Babel, they were trying to go up high enough to like get to heaven, right?
Yeah, but maybe they right. But it seems like they have a little bit more of a sciencey understanding of like the sky, right? So maybe they're actually thinking that if they can get high enough, then they can, kind of like weather balloons can go all the way up into space, right? Like, so maybe they're thinking, okay, well, if we can get high enough, then we can send off these spacecraft into space.
We could blast off satellites and yeah. And I guess that is still the question. What was the bricklayer actually trying to accomplish? What was his end game? We don't know. Maybe the Sphinx does. Maybe, do we know, or did I just miss it? I don't know. I feel like that was all kind of, it was unclear, but it was unclear in a good way. So there are probably enough clues where I could be picking up more, but having just finished the book, I've not done that. So maybe I'll just read on to book 3 in ignorant bliss, and then be surprised by whatever the twist is.
That's what I do.
All right. Thanks for listening. Again, if you are watching on YouTube, comment, subscribe, and comment. If you're listening on the podcast, go to our YouTube channel and then subscribe and comment. And when you comment, you'll be entered into the competition to win a free Audible credit, which we will have a drawing for at the end of October 2021. I guess if you're going way back into the archives for this one,
you're from the future.
Yeah, if you're from the anyone we talk to right now is from the future. Interesting.
Okay, Stephen, don't go too philosophical.
All right. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of philosophy in this book.
Josiah Bancroft, Stephen.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Okay. Thanks for listening. Before we go too deep, let's sign off. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Stephen.